It's a nice break from me. Day to
The
day,
traditional.
right.
He's giving you his hotspot.
Alrighty, so you are live streaming on the YouTube channel. My office is just back there whenever you want to shut down.
I appreciate it. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Enjoy, you guys. Have fun.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, is that the camera? Is that the camera?
Yeah.
It's right here. Name that.
It just picks up on where you are, who's talking.
Is that Abby?
You'll see that it'll
No,
matter.
you look fine. I look fine. It's like, she's lying, but I look fine. Well, I think you look
All right, we gotta get using our time wisely. All right, so let me explain. Does anybody else need Wi-Fi? You guys good?
I'm good.
Okay. So when we get started, let me go through kind of the ground rules. Can you two move over? Well, never mind. I was gonna say just scoot over a little bit if you can. We will go from top to bottom. We're gonna go Republican, Democrat, Independent. And then remember, as we go through, it'll go in reverse then. And then as we go through the rebuttals, then it kind of snakes through and work way back. Okay, because then Independent will get to respond and then it'll.
And then it goes to Democrat, then it goes back to Republican.
Correct, so it'll snake.
So
its way
it
through.
always goes Republican, Democrat,
Independent,
Independent.
independent.
No, then Independent, then Democrat, then Republican. It goes reverse
It
then.
snakes, it'll just go down the entire time. So that,
Are
Yep.
there mics usually here?
sometimes there's, but they said also there's sound system right now. Every time that it's time for your turn to speak, you'll go up to the podium. So the leaders, the presidential candidates, you're gonna go up first. You're going to give your speech in a second when I tell you. Then when you are done, you're gonna come back and take a seat, and then we'll start the process of rebuttals. I will have a timer. So you will be given, according to our rules, 3 minutes max to be able to rebuttal. Remember, when you do the rebuttal, that you cannot include any new information that you have not already stated the first time around. So, and I kind of got to step out of order of this, but it'll actually go speeches and then answering of the questions and then rebuttals. So I kind of skipped. Rebuttals, remember to respond to anything that you would like to respond that was mentioned to the questions.
That's me reverse. Hold all the questions, it'll go into what we just reverse for the
So
response.
she is right. Yeah. So you will, every time you answer a question, you will always.
I don't get what we have to respond then.
Okay, so talk through with them, okay? That's the part where we were prepping for this. When you respond to the rebuttals, you're listening to the other candidates on what they're
And
gonna
then
say
you're
in their
gonna respond
answers.
back to what, like, back and forth.
Right? All right, does anybody have any questions for me? Make sure you guys speak up loudly. Make sure that you guys remember familiar. Don't try to stare down. We want to practice that public speaking as well. All right, in that case, as I said, Republicans are first. Presidential candidate can go up to the podium.
It doesn't work.
That doesn't work. Just speak nice and loud. This will pick you
That's down.
up. It's all right.
Okay. Hello, my name is Allison Shelpepper, and I am running in the 2024 presidential election, and I am the Republican leader. I'm a very proud Republican, and I believe that my country's voice matters and the people in it. I try to put my perspective to do better for this country. I try to show and listen to my people that live in the country and also their problems, but also their needs. Some of the most important topics that my party holds, such as economic prosperity, preserves American values and their traditions, but also restore America to their strong country again. I promise that if you vote for me, I will do those things and I will bring back the spirit of America. Thank you.
All right, Democrats, do we have your candidate?
Hello, my fellow Americans. My name is Sawyer Trepel. I am running as Democrat for the presidential election. As we approach another election, I would like to take a moment to talk about why I believe I'm the best candidate for this job of President of the United States. I'm a visionary leader who understands and the complexities of our modern world. I recognize that we face a range of pressing challenges, from climate change and economic inequality to public health. crisis and threats to national security residents. Showing away from these challenges, I embrace them with a bold and innovative approach that seeks to build a better future of all Americans. Finally, I'm a leader who truly embodies the values that make this country great. I'm a person of integrity, honesty, and compassion, and I have a lot of respect for the diversity and richness of the nation's history and culture. So, my fellow Americans, please take time to head over to the polls. I urge you to consider the strengths that I have as a candidate for President of the United States. With my leadership, vision, and commitment to service, I believe that I am the right choice for our country as we work to build a better future for all Americans. So please take a moment and consider checking my name at the polls, because your vote, your choice, your future. Thank you.
Okay, independent party, control the candidate. You're ready.
Good afternoon, my name is Kylie Wenninger, and I'm your future independent conservative president. These past couple of decades, our economy has slowly been at a decline. We have been turning away from the truth of the word and making unjust choices. People have now been diminished from their right to talk about their opinions on God's word. We are allowing unacceptable amounts of abortions, changes of sex, and same-sex marriage. The privilege of guns are being fought to be taken away from people's own wrongdoings, not to mention much more. I will turn a disgraceful country into what the Lord desires. Pro-life, opposite-sex marriage will be diminished, freedom of speech, and taking consequences for your own actions. Voting for me will build this country back to what it once was.
All right. So now, what we are going to do is we are going to get into our questions, okay? So as we start, Republicans will go ahead and go to the podium first. When our candidate goes up, you will be asked a question. You will have up to 3 minutes to respond to that question with a prepared response, including information that backs up why, that is what your response is. And then after that 3 minutes or less, you will take a seat and we'll continue with Democrat and Independent. At that moment, you guys are going to be given about 5 to 10 minutes to be able to reconvene with your group, to be able to sort through what was mentioned. So during this time, my campaign managers and anybody else in our groups, you're going to want to make sure that you are jotting down the positions of what others have said, so that you know when it's time for rebuttal, what you're going to say in response or question in that time, okay? All right, in that case, Republican candidate, you can go ahead and head up to the podium.
Question.
I will let you know once you get up there. All right, our first question that we have, and keeping in mind, remember, everything that I mentioned, you need to think clearly through and respond and give a detailed response. You will have 3 minutes when I tell you start. The question is what are your thoughts on immigration into this country and how it should be handled?
Immigration. So, as my fellow past party leaders, as a Republican, we have built the wall for the Mexican border. We believe that if we put up the wall and build the wall with our tax money that we get from the schooling, that we can hopefully stop the drug use that's coming in from Mexico. But also we believe that from the immigration, that the party can build the economy back up and stop the drug population, but also stop the danger from the legal causes that may cause from the drug use and the economic prosperity of how many people have overdoses and everything.
All right, anything else you want to add to that?
No.
Okay, you may go ahead and take a seat. But keep in mind, guys, as you ask these questions, as the moderator, I have the ability to ask questions to be able to get clarification. Don't be surprised if I were to stop and to ask you something. And and we'll go through, so just be prepared for that, okay? All right, Democratic candidates, sorry, man, on up. All right, same question. If you were to answer, what would be your stance on, what are your thoughts on immigration into this country?
We're the most supportive of creating a way for unoccupied immigrants to stay in the country legally. 85% say that they should be an important goal, including 44%. But the people that say that it should be important aren't really like, I wouldn't say, they're not helping as much, but they're not hurting. And they're just trying to get immigrants to stay in here because they don't want to get rid of them, because otherwise technically they could sue, because if they take it that way. Some people could take it that way if they're a different color, or as I say, race. They could say that it's like racist pretty much, and they could take it a different way and say that they want to sue.
All right, so sorry, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So what would you say what would be your stance on any exposure on our borders when it comes to security on our southern border, our northern border? How would
We need to tighten it up.
you agree with tightening it up?
Yes.
All right, is there anything you'd like to add? Okay, you may go ahead and take a seat.
So you can read out your speeches.
Oh, my speech, what do you mean?
Like your little clip.
Hey, those be quiet. All right. All right, Kylie, same question is, what is your party's thoughts and stance and your stance on immigration into this country?
Our country is full of immigrants and a mix of different histories. We should keep on growing our country and provide a safe place for freedom, but we should also make sure it's safe and legal, and we should also tighten up the security.
All right, so question for you is, how would you say to make it safe and legal?
Like you have your own consequences for your actions, so more like, I don't know how to describe it, like tighten the security so you can't like secretly immigrate through and bring drugs through, and like where they do go through, like be more aware, like on checking them and making sure that illegal products do not come through the borders.
What would be that process then? How would you monitor all that security and
Security guards,
are you gonna pay for the security guard?
raise tax.
All right, you may take a seat. All right, so now, just so you guys have an idea, as we continue to go through, here's just kind of, since that's your first time with it and your first round, and I want to explain how this is gonna look forward, is you noticed as I ask questions, I'm looking for very specific things, right? And this is why we emphasize looking for details on what is your stance, why do you believe what you believe in, but also what would you do? Okay, so when I grill you on that, I'm not doing it just for no reason. I'm asking for particulars, because when you look at debates and what candidates, what people, voters are looking for, they're looking for specifics, right? They want to know how you're going to do what you're going to do, why you're going to do it, and what's important to you. And they're going to want to have answers to those questions. Okay, so think carefully going forward that you have an articulated response on what you're going to say. Okay, and be prepared for that. And make sure that when you're up there or you're back here, you're listening, you're attentive, and that you're ready to go, okay? All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and we're going to snake back. So now this is where we will have a chance at a rebuttal. So what I'm gonna have for that, so I'm gonna give you and your group, you have 5 minutes. If we need more time, we'll discuss. So at 11:48, we are gonna start with the independents and rebuttal and see what your response. Now remember, during rebuttals, you can ask and pose statements against other parties, like I heard my other party say this, while I know or think this, whatever else it is. You can bring those things to attention. You can ask me questions, but I cannot answer anything or pose anything new than what was already mentioned.
For the rebuttal, we still have to go up the top, right?
Correct. Okay, all right, you got 5 minutes starting now, so go ahead and talk with your partner and see what you need to discuss.
Can I say something quick? To everybody, if you get a question asked to you, do not take it personal. That is just saying it. Do not get mad or anything. Yeah, I'm scared that people.
That goes, nicely said.
You can ask questions to the other groups, right?
Actually, no, you may not. You may pose it as like a statement where,
And then they can answer it up when they get up there.
yeah, so that's kind of the drawback of depending where you are in your rebuttal, because it doesn't come back around.
We can't do any questions?
You can, in opposing in a statement, but they can't answer it at that point. They can only answer it when they have their. They believe in it.
No, to go down everyone.
No.
At 48.
At 48, we'll wait up there. It's not used.
Yeah, it's in the front of the coach.
Oh,
Democrat.
you go to the west.
Okay, okay.
You're not going. Now.
But where are all the cameras now moving?
Right, these little owl things. They have the little eyes.
Yeah, it's coming.
Look at the eyes. Because I know what I would. They're so big, so good.
You have about 1 minute.
Those things.
All right, is everyone ready? It is 47, but they're all done. All right, I'm gonna let the independent candidate go up.
Are you gonna ask me questions?
So no, I'll explain that again one last time, and then from this point on, I won't have to, but now what happens during the rebuttal, I do not answer the question again. This is your time to respond to what you decided as a group that you needed to say, okay, in response to anything else, okay? So go ahead and say what you need to add on.
If we are already a mixing pot, why should we stop that now and making immigration illegal? And if we are worried about drug abuse here, then we can tighten the borders and do more checks for the illegal drugs and substances that are coming into the borders. And like I said before, we can supply that by raising the taxes for the security checks.
Chip, anything else you want to add? Okay, Democratic candidate, you can go ahead and head up. Yep, when you're ready.
Our country was built of liberty and freedom, not control or the radical independence, iron fist. We should vote on problems to be fixed, according to the people. You should do what the people want and vote for, not control them with the iron fist. We fight for the people's independence, fights for themselves. The independence group also, I feel, isn't taking it like as seriously. And they're like laughing during it and they're like, I don't know.
Raise.
Yes, you may not. Okay, anything more to add? Okay. All right, Republican candidate.
Go down.
Otherwise, we stop. Every time you're out of order.
Am I allowed to call out a party?
You may
Sorry.
question the party.
I did.
Okay, hold on, so I'm going to stop. Give me that.
Hammer. What? Hammer.
Okay. So I'm gonna tell you right now, though, so anytime that we have anybody speaking out, because you've been warned, so if you do that out of line, then you lose points, okay? So no, right now, what's your question?
Didn't you say that when we were like doing the rebuttal and answering the questions, you
Yep.
would have to go along with what it was?
He is, and our Democratic candidate didn't mention anything out of line, other than to question the seriousness of the response of the party's question. Okay, there was nothing aggressive and nothing accusatory and anything like that. Okay, observing.
Can accuse people?
Cannot accuse, cannot be aggressive in tone, we've set that ground.
Okay, but like, what if they said it?
If you can call out a position they took,
Okay,
you may go ahead and question that.
so the Democratic Party, in your first speech, you said how you care about everyone. But also, in your other speech, you entailed that if they didn't believe that, they are not as important as the people that do believe that. Secondly, your party, as I heard, does not heavily expand the wall and security, but you also said you would like to grow your security when the judge, right, you're a judge for everything? Moderator, you said how you would want to grow that. That's more conservative, in my opinion. Thirdly,
I need your speech. Keep going.
you might have had it on.
There you go.
Also, if it is not fair and you want, if we're also, my party is not trying to stop Mexicans and Black people or mixed countries to come in. But 58% of the percentage of drug use come from Mexico, and we would like to prevent it. And if they do come into our country, we would not want it illegally, so say. Second off, 43.4% drug trafficking has went down since the wall. The wall was built. Thank you.
Did we ever agree that you?
Oh, I don't get to drums.
Wait, was this a statement?
No, you can stop. I am gonna question the validity of the statement of what our candidate, Allison has said about saying that, our Democratic candidate Sawyer questioned or put a priority of a person or people above anybody else. There's nothing in his speech that suggests that. So when Allison had questioned that, I would strike that as, no, that,
I'm at the other one.
either so, but that was cited as your speech and that's what you called it. That's not there. So.
And I only did one speech, not
But
two.
there's only, the Democratic candidate doesn't have anything in speech that would suggest that he favored one group over the
I
other.
only speech Democrat.
All right, so, as we go through, and now we will continue on to our second question, and at which point I will call back up the Republican Party. When we go through again, remember, you need to keep your comments to yourself, and I will question as we go through it. If you have any questions for the moderator, you can ask, and let me know as we go through, okay? All right, so on to our next one, once our candidate's up there, ready to go. All right, so our next question is going to be for Republican candidate. What are your thoughts on abortion and women's reproductive rights in our nation?
Okay, so I would just like to start off that we are pro-life and the Eighth Amendment that we believe that abortion is murder. So following the amendments in the Eighth Amendment, that's per se murder in our opinion. We've also believed that women should have okay, so I'm going to call for, but women have the right, should have the right to have a baby, but they should not have the right to kill a baby that didn't do anything so wrong. Because the baby per se never did anything, and it's the woman's action for the baby to do that. The baby should not get punished for what the woman did with another man. And we also follow the 14th Amendment and the Republican, wait. The 14th Amendment that also follows so say with abortion. And as they follow and okay, and the Republican also party would also, if they do not get abortion, the Republican Party will pay your money costs for the adoption with they will pay the tax increase for those who choose adoption over abortion for full life.
Okay, so my question for candidates, do you have any types of numbers? So you talk about as an incentive for under your presidency that you would help and promote adoptions.
Mhm.
And you would pay and offset costs of adoption fees and things like that. Do you have the numbers on how many annually as of, let's say, 2022 abortions took place in the United States?
No, I can't.
Okay, that's one question I have. Okay, you may go ahead and take a seat. Thank you. All right, Democratic Party, you may go ahead and head on up, and I'll ask you the same question in a second. For those in our groups, make sure that you're quiet as you're waiting. You will have your chance for rebuttal when you are ready. All right, so for our Democratic candidate Sawyer, I ask you the same question: is what is your party's and your stance on what are your thoughts on abortion, women's reproductive rights in our nation?
We, the Democrats, believe that it's pro-choice and that you should be able to choose whatever you want to do. And that even if you don't want to keep it, that you can do whatever, you can kill it, do whatever you want. And we believe that you can, you're allowed to, it's not really your fault though, but you're allowed to do whatever you want with it.
All right, so you repeated that statement, do whatever you
Yeah.
want. What do you mean by that?
You can do whatever you want with the baby, which I mean, you can either keep it, kill it, do whatever, put it up for adoption, or just plain out leave it.
Okay, so would it be, and I want to clarify to make sure that you're putting this correctly, is would it be the Democratic Party stance that they say that they would, in their words, kill the baby if that was your choice?
Not in their words.
So what are their words?
Their words say that it's your choice. They didn't say that you have to kill it.
If it's your choice, what would be the possible choice they could make?
Kill the baby.
But is that what they say? What is the wording?
The wording says that you can leave the baby, adopt, put up for adoption, kill it, or leave it.
So, sorry, what I'm clarifying is I want to have on the record just to say is that the Democratic Party's platform, their response would be that it would be an abortion that would take place. Okay, and as we translate that, then that's what we would say would be to take the baby's life. But I just want to make sure that the party stance that we're stating clearly is that the mother then has a choice
Yes,
to abort the baby. And so-
yes, I worded that wrong.
Oh, you're okay. I want to clarify. All right, Independent Party, you may have had it up for your question. All right, our independent party candidate, Kylie. Same question to you, as what is you and your party's thoughts on abortion and women's reproductive rights in our nation?
We are for pro-life. And a lot of, like, when the topic abortion comes up, so the people that are pro-choice will always go around and be like, well, what if a female got raped? But actually only 0.5% of abortions are actually from rape. And a child should not be punished for the man or woman's poor choices. And there are many other options that you can do besides physically murdering the child. It is not a birth control. Abortion is not a birth control. And most abortions are from women who simply do not want the child and do not do not go out of their way to prevent it. Fetus is Latin for offspring, and an offspring is a definition for a living thing. So when people say, oh, it's not living because it's not born or whatever, it technically is actually living. And another way we would spend the raise on taxes would be programs that would help with moms who are not ready for children and to help with foster care systems.
Okay.
For the
So-
children.
If I could ask a question on clarifying, you mentioned before, great start, I'm talking about the 5% abortion living rate. But then you referenced that.
0.5.
0.5, sorry. Thank you. 0.5%. But then you said that a majority are from ones that are not a result of that. Do you have kind of a breakdown percentage on what that would be?
44%.
Is that what we're saying? Okay, so 44% would be as relative just simply chose to. Right? All right. I think that answers my question. Good.
Thank you.
All right, so now what I will allow you to do is, we'll kind of narrow it down the time a little bit. I'm gonna give you about 3 minutes to go ahead and confer with your team, for a rebuttal now. Remember, try to keep your rebuttals more pointed to the topics. Okay, and remember, you are merely representing your party platform. I understand this is difficult with some of these because these are not things we agree with, but we are educating on what the stance of each party is.
That was a struggle with
I
that.
get it, I get it. So we gotta educate on the stances so that we know what we're working with. Okay? Just because I know it's hard, we have somebody with a very strong opinion, well, not even opinion, in fact, in biblical scripture about being anti-abortion, and Democratic party's gotta say that they agree with it. I'm sorry, does that make sense why I clarified that?
Yes,
I understand it, and
because
we.
killing seems more gruesome.
But we know that, right? It is. But at the same time, we need to understand the vocabulary being used in the world around us.
And it doesn't,
Because when they do cover it up and they just say abortion, 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 yeah, they're
Yeah.
concealing the fact of how horrible it is. But we need to know that connection. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm glad,
And we're not saying kill it, we're saying it's your choice.
well, but at the
Don't
end of the
have
day,
to.
if they chose to, is that what's happening?
Yes.
Yes, but I do want to make sure we see the connection because the media and others might, like depict it one way, but we need to know the reality of what is happening. Interesting thing on the field. That was a good description. I have not connected that.
Yes, honey.
Most of our public schools.
Most of the students there. Yeah. You know what's happening.
All right, got about another minute.
Yell.
12:04 is when we're gonna do our next.
I'm not getting this
Kind
covered.
of really loud.
That's what it's called.
Oh, shoot.
Can I go? Just.
Yep, we can go ahead and start, so. Think that up right now. Yep.
So. Yeah, so before the Democratic Party claimed that it is your body, your choice. But do you have 4 arms or 4 legs? Killing the baby affects the baby's body and not yours. So therefore it is not your body and not your choice because the baby is a whole separate part and it is not part of you. That's not something that you're doing to your own body. And if you, before you use the term killing or kill the fetus, which means you're basically admitting that you are committing murder. And if you're against murder, why does that change for an innocent unborn child?
Yep, Democratic Party, you may have an after your vote. Yep.
Republicans, again, as I'd like to say, we are built of freedom. We should let our nation's people choose whether they should whether they could choose abortion or not. We should let our people decide what is right for them. Don't let the radical right control you. Republicans, why did you raise your voice? It wasn't that heated of a conversation. We were just talking, and you just got heated. And then the American people deserve better. Don't let the Republicans raise their voice too.
All right, so our candidate, though, I am gonna give a heads up, so we're gonna keep it to the issues, okay? So we're gonna deviate less and less from the candidate's demeanor and more on the, okay?
Democrat Party. Do you know what killing is? Because that's what abortion is. It goes against the Bible. First off, Exodus 20:13, you shall not murder. Deuteronomy 5:17, you shall not murder. In the, you should kill it. It is most strongly a Democrat move for the party, but also that is breaking the 18th Amendment and the 14th Amendment that are written by our founding fathers. Also, if you say it is a woman's choice, which don't make that choice in the beginning, you have so many other prosperities to prevent it. Birth control, condom, or just don't do it until marriage. Have it safe. And if you are raped, like they said, 0.5% are from rape. 0.5. And yet you can still go to the Republican Party and use our tax money to get adoption for it. Also, there are 620,327 abortions a year. That is how many babies you said you are killing. Also, you said it is a woman's choice and it's no danger, but it's also an occasion that abortion can wreck a woman's uterus and stomach. Thank you.
Hold on, so 2 questions for Allison. So your last comment there was about, damage that can be done to a mother. Do you have some examples of what can happen to a mother in the process of an abortion?
Like, so, do I have to really get into what abortion?
No, you don't need to give me specifics of that, but can you give me, like, does it indeed, like, you said stomach and things, are we talking about long lasting issues, risk of life, or what are we dealing with?
Well, it could, what I've researched in my party is that it can affect what you have in the future. Like if you do want children, it can affect that in the long run. But it's also a very rare occasion, but he said it cannot do any danger, but there can be danger that can be brought to the table.
My other question would be, or more of a statement of clarification, is also to keep in mind as we talk about adoptions. Keep in mind that in the process of adoption, much of the adoption process is privately funded. Meaning that those who seek out the adoption process, while the child, when they're in the process of waiting for adoption, yes, that is funded. And that is facilitated by the state and federal government. But when it comes to the process of adoption, that is usually done out of pocket by people who are interested in that. So in that case, there wouldn't be footing the bill of expenses for people exploring that. But yes, they would have to put the bill for having the child in that adoption process. Okay. All right, you may go and take a seat. All right. Yes. So now. Yep. Scroll. We'll be okay. All right, so on to our next question.
One more question.
We'll see if we can sneak it too. We'll see how fast we go. So our next question we're gonna have for our Republican candidate. We are going to ask. Let's ask this question of who should decide what is taught in public schools, and kind of a follow-up, this is kind of a conjoined question. But should families be able to choose where their quote unquote tax dollars go with their child's education? So it's kind of two questions here to make sure you articulate both. And I'll repeat it again, is who should decide what is taught in public schools? But in addition to that, should families be able to choose then where their tax dollars go with their child's education?
As a Republican leader, I believe that schools should have a higher education that is brought to the schools. We should limit federal government in the education field, but also when it comes to school, we should believe in the school choice. So say a child is not comfortable with going to school, or they get bullied or anything like that, trouble at school, they should have the right to choose homeschool or regular school. It's their option, but as long as they are in a school program, it is, I should say, all right, but we accept that as a whole, as like the Republican Party. But I do believe that for our tax funding from the schools, I believe that we should be able to pick where our taxes go. Say like for our federal security, we use most of our taxes on like the wall, like the border, but also the military and et cetera, like what my party stands for. But if we don't have the taxes and if we don't have the money from the schools, we cannot pay for that, for our protection, for our country, to stay as safe as it is.
Okay, so my question for you, Allison, is going to be based on Republican stance. Do you believe, so most of the funding that's given for a family and a child in education is handled at the state level, okay? When that money is handled, do you believe that that money should follow the child, that they can then choose the school system that they want to go to, and that the money goes with them to support that school?
Like say, like what the parents give them?
So let's say that the state of Wisconsin decides that a student is worth $8,000. Okay, that's what it costs for education. Should that, no matter what, since we have a public education system, should that money automatically be given for every child to the public schools? Or should that money follow the student based on where they choose to go for their school?
I would just like to say, one kid should not have a different limit to each school. A kid should always be paid equal amount. And it should not be split by like who's smarter, like whatever.
So to clarify my statement, it's equal. So let's assume everyone is, but what my question is that should that money, no matter what, be given to the public school? Or should it be following the student to where they would like to go?
That's a hard question to answer. I would say where okay, so if the kid is gonna pay for their education, they should, but if they pay for a public school, they're not going to, why should they? If they should pay for the education they want and what they need and what they think they need.
All right, you may go ahead and take a seat.
That was a good question.
All All right, for our Democratic candidate for Sawyer, same question to you, and I'll read through it twice as I did our previous candidate. Since there are two parts to it, is who should be deciding what is taught in public schools? And a follow-up to that is, should families then be able to choose where their tax dollars go with a child's education? Would you like me to repeat that one more time?
Yes, please.
Okay, so two parts to this is who should decide what is taught in public schools? And then a follow-up to that is, should families be able to choose where their tax dollars go with their child's education?
As the Democrat Party, we believe that where the tax dollars should go is up to the government, but where the families goes is up to them. They can pick wherever their tax dollars go, but wherever how they're teaching in the schools isn't really up to the school. It's more up to the families and the government. But with the tax dollars, it's not fully like, I would say the tax dollars isn't really your choice, because the government is the one that's putting the tax dollars there. But the tax dollars technically isn't yours, it's what you sort of owe, so that should go to the government. But then the government also should sort of control what the learning is in public. Privates, though, no. Privates, the family should choose.
Okay, so I just want to clarify to make sure. So you're saying that tax dollars are given to the government as tax levy,
Yes,
and then you're saying that since that's the fact that the government can decide where those tax dollars go to.
yes,
And then to follow up that, though, you are then saying that the education that takes place in those schools, the government, state government, whatever the discretion, local government, should then decide what is mostly taught within the schools, with the exception of private education.
yes, but the families don't have to agree with what that government says though.
Okay. Okay, and how do you think that should be handled then? Let's say that you have a town or you have a community that has a public school that's largely their education and curriculum is decided by state, local level or federal government, and they disagree with it. How should they handle it?
Can you repeat your question?
Yep, so we have, we take a town, let's say here in Mayville.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, within Mayville Public Schools, the state, federal, local governments have decided that they want certain things taught within the school district. And you have a chunk of families that largely disagree with that. How do you think they should handle that to address that disagreement that they're having?
I think they should vote on it.
They should vote on it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you may go ahead and take a seat. All right, so I will pose the same question, our candidate Kylie from the Independent Party. I'll read it once, and then if you need it again twice, I can read it to you a second time as I have our other candidates. So our question for you is two parts, so listen carefully is, who should decide what is taught in public schools? Should families be able to then choose where their tax dollars go with their child's education? And so I'll repeat that one more time, is who should decide what is taught in public schools? And should families be able to choose where their tax dollars go with their child's education?
So, as the independent conservative stance, we believe that parents should have a large say in what is taught at school, and the curriculum that is provided and picked out should be picked by the state and government to make sure that the students are meeting their needs and are being taught what they need to be taught for their age level. Kids should not be exposed to LGBTQ. And we always say freedom of speech of everything, but this should be brought up when a family believes that it is an appropriate time. And so that the families can have their say on their beliefs of what they believe about this topic, and that it should not be influenced at school because there are so many different visions on it. And students should be able to speak of their religion, which means the school should not push political beliefs into children. If Christianity cannot be spoken of, then why can other less common religions be spoken of in school districts.
All right, so my question for you then is, when you decide, and it seems like for the most part you agree, unless I'm wrong, and then clarify. But for the most part, you agree that the state and local with discretion should be deciding what is taught in the schools, with the exception of, you're saying that there should be nothing of any LGBTQ or anything like that that's introduced to children in schools. But my question is this: who gets to decide what the exceptions are? So you have picked a few and said that you don't want to see anything with LGBTQ or when it comes to those topics, that should not be in school. Then it should be Christianity should have fair exposure as well. But what's to stop certain people within the community saying, well, I'm not comfortable with slavery being taught. I'm not comfortable with Holocaust history being taught. What do we say to those parents when we start to pick and choose what we do and do not allow?
Well, I feel like it should be voted on at some point, because everyone should have a say in it. But I also feel like other stances on this topic, I feel like other stances on the topic of like LGBTQ should be more covered, and I feel like it's not. Like, I feel like the stance that I brought up on how it should be, the family should take it into their own time to speak of it. Like, I feel like that's not brought up enough, and I feel like that also needs to be heard, because it is like, it's a big topic. And it's like, it's a big thing, and I feel like the family should have that, because in school, you get one opinion of that. So I feel like more like, not campaigning, but like advertising of like why it should not be taught in school should be put out, and then I feel like it should be voted on.
My follow-up question then too is just to ask, when you mention, and just to clarify, are you saying that you would want to omit any education about LGBTQ in the community? Or are you wanting to educate students on the stances and both sides of LGBTQ?
Definitely like the stances on both sides, because I feel like we should not just be putting it out there that it's just like wrong. Like, I feel like I feel like it needs to be more like explained to be understood better, because I feel like it's just like, from our point of view and like the Christian point of view, like, I feel like it's just put out there, it's wrong. That's what the Bible says, like, it's wrong. But I feel like it needs to be more explained and more like why it should be avoided. And before, I didn't cover where the tax dollars, like the parents are paying taxes. And the families are the ones paying taxes, so they should be able to pick what school and provide their child the best education possible that they think is best for the child.
Okay. All right, we may take a seat. All right, for the sake of time, I'm gonna give you I can give you about a minute, for a rebuttal. So if you guys wanna quickly convene and see if there's anything that you want to discuss with me to rebuttal. Sure, we're okay. So let's go ahead and see on, like I said, I'll give you about a minute or so and or two. It's okay, so go ahead and reconvene. You guys got about a minute or two. I'll give you time.
What's
Don't worry about
GOB?
Don't worry about it. So touch base with your person and just see if you get a response. Okay? And then we'll rebuttal. And we'll- I get it. I didn't correct policy. Yeah, hers would be cool. And then said it, not all that. Any. All right, does anybody else need any more time or are we set?
Where's you guys?
We're good? Okay, so if we are ready, independent party, you may go ahead and head up and take whatever your bottle stance you like to.
So history's history and people should not vote to take that away. But political agendas are different. People are pressing things on children now. And everyone should be provided with a good education and be able to decide before, like I said before, when you pay the taxes, they should be able to decide on where they go. Because the parents should know better than the government about their own children.
All right, Democratic Party, you make your money for your rebuttal.
My fellow Americans, it's sad to see our liberal country be changed and twisted from freedom and liberty to balls and chains and iron fists. The people deserve to choose what education and sex they want. It would be sad to see our people be treated like prisoners with no freedom, but this can be changed by a single vote. And if problems come up between government and family, they will vote on the problem to fit it. And nobody should have their freedom ripped away if they're innocent.
Okay, Republican Party.
Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. You said that you said in your words that America is a democratic country. Okay? First off, it is not just a democratic country, it is everyone, it is a free country. So it's not.
Did we say any different?
Did we say?
Hey,
We said
the
it was
rest
a
of the-
democratic country, no.
We said it was a free country.
Okay, so the Democrat Party, we're gonna quiet. I do want to add a point of clarification though, that the United States is in and of itself a democracy, which makes it democratic. It doesn't label it as being just representative of a Democratic Party, but it is a democracy, which would make it democratic country.
Can I read it? Okay.
Continue, yep.
So, my point of view as a Christian leader, as a Republican Party, I do believe that religion should be taught in public schools, but religion is also taught in public schools unconstitutional
Continue.
to schools, but also, we also believe that if you can teach LGBTQ in schools or just accept it all over, you should also be able to accept Christianity into schools. And I'm not saying just bring up Bible, this and that, but also just like put it out there for the children to learn and for them to like have an equal right for everything in the world. And then it's not just hidden from them and them getting pushed away for what they could accept. Because 41% of people to 41% people oppose to LGBTQ and 41% people agree with LGBTQ getting taught in the schools, but 44% don't agree with it. And I think that if you can agree or disagree with LGBTQ in school, you should also put Christ into it, because it's not fair for people that do believe in it and they can't even show that and put in perspective, but LGBTQ can, and it's not equal and fair, and they want equal rights and fair, but yet they get special treatment in school and everything like that.
All right, so
Mr. Moderator,
no, my question, my only response would be, and maybe you can clarify is. When you say, and I understood your point before, when you say about the LGBTQ and the way that that's taught, and then balancing that out with teaching more Christianity. What would you say to people though that would respond and say that LGBTQ is not necessarily a religious thing? It is a choice, a body, a preference, emotion, recognition, identification, and they disassociate it with any religion. Then how can you say that balancing it with Christianity would be the fair response?
Because that's God. God is love. And if you truly love God and like say how much you love LGBTQ, like you love that person too, that is what God is. He is love. And for you to like, not to review, but like, you can like not, LGBTQ is not religion, yes, but it's also an emotion. And when you get to a Christianity perspective and you get so close to God, you feel that emotion for him. And it should be brought toward kids to feel like happy and complete and feel like that love and warmth that they need sometimes in their life.
So then what would you say in response to, you mentioned your constitutional right to talk about freedom of religion. And you mentioned it both ways, is right now the schools, as they emphasize other religions, but they don't fairly recognize
Yes.
Christianity. But then if you flip it and you're emphasizing God and God is love, what would you say to others who would respond and say, well, I don't believe in your God?
Then that is their choice. You cannot push someone to believe it, but I believe that you should still like not show them it, but show them and like put them into this perspective. You don't have to push their faith on them, but you could just show them or like open the path to the way that you may believe in. You don't have to force it or make them, but you can just tell them what you believe in and just so they can like give them the perspective of it.
But so to clarify what you're saying, you believe that all options should be laid out?
Yes,
So
but it
that,
should be equally and not more so to the other.
okay,
Because in our community, LGBTQ is a thing, and I believe that kids should be educated to it, but it doesn't mean they have to be pushed to like it or love it or be in love with someone that is part of the LGBTQ.
all right, you may take a seat. Okay, privately and off the thing, what would you like to question or add?
Mr. Moderator.
Yep,
We never forced LGBTQ. We're giving the family the vote to choose whether their schools should teach that or not. So we're giving them the choice. We're not forcing LGBTQ or their religion on them.
and I have that as my record too, as the Democratic Party did emphasize freedom and choice.
Who said they did?
That was the question I answered.
Thank you, Ms. Pond.
Okay. All right. We will wrap up and discuss this more.
Don't check on their speeches that they wrote that.
So we will look at all this, everything will be handed in to me today, okay? And I'm gonna sit through, I'm gonna look at your information gathered, your speeches. So before you leave today, make sure that it's on my desk, okay? All right, let's make sure that we return this the way it nicely was. Sawyer, do you mind stepping out and finding that woman? She should be met up to the store and ask her if she could go ahead and shut this down.
I enjoyed it, guys. But the first time I was scared.
Yeah.
All right, the other stuff, just pushing the chairs, if any of them get yours, make sure that you grab it. Thank you so much for doing this.